Welcome to Dear Business Coach, the podcast. My name's Elizabeth. Find one thing to move your business forward today. With conversations, spotlights, interviews, articles, and free resources. Listen, follow, and subscribe on social media, Dear Business Coach pages and groups. Dear Business Coach podcast. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube. And don't forget Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, and anywhere you listen to podcasts. All it takes sometimes is one little thing to move your business forward today. Great. Yes, Scott Jacobson. And thank you so much for coming to the Dear Business Coach podcast today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Elizabeth. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm really fascinated. I will go right into. I have your bio here, and Scott, you're a CPA and founder of Onward Equity, and I'm on onward-equity.com right now while we're talking. So, listeners, if you want to be able to see Scott and visit his work, you can see onward-equity.com. And Scott, you are the founder of Onward Equity. So here's what I know about you. Scott has 2 decades of active real estate investing experience and knowledge, ranging from single-family homes and duplexes to multifamily apartment buildings and a medical professional office building. Combining a passion for real estate with real-world experiences in property acquisition, management, and successful exit strategies. His vision is to align with like-minded people who can see the financial benefits and the excitement that real estate investing can offer. He's currently working on larger multifamily real estate syndication deals, and since 2016 has been a general or limited partner in over 4,500 apartment units across the country in multiple industrial park complexes in the eastern U.S. In 2013, Scott and his wife Denise founded a 501c3 nonprofit charity called the Sun Foundation, and that's capital S, capital O, capital N Foundation, which serves as a home away from home for cancer patients and their caregivers while they're in Indianapolis for treatments. Guests are not charged to stay at the Sun House, and to date, the Sun Foundation has provided over 8,000 nights of lodging for its guests. Scott lives in Indianapolis with his wife and son, and in his spare time loves to travel domestically and internationally, watch his son play baseball and basketball, and spend time with friends and family. So that's a really, really packed bio. Thank you for that.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds like me, although I think I need to update that, I guess. I think we're over 9,000 nights now at the nights of lodging provided for the Sun Foundation. Pretty great.
Wow. That is really great. And that is a very, very, very important work. I haven't had an opportunity to talk to anyone else before who's doing anything like this. So I definitely want to make sure I spend a good time getting you to tell us about that. So let me get me some background, Scott. Tell me a little bit about yourself. So you started, you have 2 decades of real estate investing experience, and you're a CPA. And so where did you start in real estate? What got you into real estate?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. It was actually the CPA role or a job that got me into real estate. So right out of college, to date myself, so I graduated in 2000, and my first job was at Arthur Anderson, used to be one of the big 5 accounting firms. And the guy who was assigned as my mentor there, when we got together, we didn't talk about accounting. We talked about real estate because he was big and still is big into rental real estate. And so he was the first one that kind of put that bug in my ear that said, hey, you can do this. Because before that, I honestly had no idea. It never even crossed my mind that you could own a house or a building or anything that you don't live in or work in. So it just blew my mind when I was riding with him and around in the car, and he said, yeah, I own that house and I own that house. And I was like, how can this even be possible? Like, so that was the first kind of mind expanding opportunity. And that was in 2002, I guess, is when I kind of took his bait and decided that this was for me. At least I wanted to give it a try. Bought my first rental property and found that I loved it, and found that it's been really good to me and for my family over the years. And so I just kind of taken natural progressions at different times and kind of scaled up and continue to do it today. In fact, I still have a W-2 job in the CPA capacity, but real estate's really where my heart is and where I enjoy. That's my time to kind of be an entrepreneur and to go out and do what I enjoy more than just the accounting part.
Okay, yeah, so that's fascinating. You just kind of jumped in. And so obviously this gentleman that you were able to ride around, and he was able to point out to you that was a real eye opener. I can see how that would be a lot of fun and then spark some real interest. So how long do you think it was before you were bought your first property for investment for yourself?
So for me, at that time in my career, I guess I was still studying for the CPA exam. So when he said, "Hey, you should go out and learn more about rental real estate," I said, "All right, I'll do that once I get the CPA exam behind me." So once I was able to do that, there was a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad that a lot of real estate investors, I think, would credit as kind of their aha moment. It's just a fantastic book that really opens a lot of eyes. And for me, once I read that, I'm like, you know what, I've got to do this. This sounds great. So it was probably, and then I was very fortunate, to be honest. Kind of my first house that I bought was near the university where I went to college, and it just kind of fell in my lap. It was a friend's dad who owned it. He had bought it so that his daughter could live there, my friend, while in school. And then when she graduated, he just wanted to sell it kind of for what he had in it. And it just, like I said, it just kind of fell in my lap, but it really started a spark in me that is now I'm in my 23rd year of this real estate investing game. And that's what started it for me. And it was really neat to see that you can, for me, I was kind of doing the house hacking thing before it was really a thing. I'd never heard that term until, it's definitely not 23 years ago, but I had some friends live with me and gave them a good deal and we all had fun being post-college roommates.
Okay, I don't know what that means. Did you say house hacking?
House hacking. Yeah, I think the term now is that kind of you live in it and then rent out part of the house, or maybe for a duplex, you'll live in one side and rent out the other side to make it cheaper for you. So for me, I bought the house and then I got some roommates, some friends, housemates, I guess, to live with me, charged them rent, but gave them a good deal. And in the end, it made it really cheap for me, as well as the homeowner. I still had to pay a little bit of, I guess, the mortgage, but much less than I would have otherwise. So
Are you a LinkedIn user? If you are, you can join me for LinkedIn Live Audio with Elizabeth every week, usually on Mondays at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. I will have a LinkedIn Live Audio where we talk about podcasting for executives who speak and podcasting for team leaders who speak. These are the themes that are currently running. If that sounds like something you're interested, visit me, Elizabeth Walker at Work, on my LinkedIn profile. Right, right. No, okay, I understand. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. That's not something that is so unheard of. Or if you talk to someone and or tell someone in a social setting that's what you're doing, right? Yeah, I have roommates because and this is what I do. It's not crazy for in
right, yeah,
conversation for that to come up.
especially in some
But
of the higher value areas, expensive areas, maybe that's kind of the norm for in some circles or some cities.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Well, and that's actually I also was a fan of Rich Dad Poor Dad and still have several of those books from that series on my
Fantastic
bookshelf
books.
right
Yeah.
now. Well, yeah, and so having read those books and have some of those aha feelings too. I mean, I didn't get into any kind of personal real estate investing until much later in life, and so even though that sounds really great, and even I don't really know if we're exactly the same age, but I also was reading Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was like high school, college age, and it was just so consumable. And so I was thinking about that a long time ago, but it still was really a scary idea. I can't imagine coming right out of school and saying, well, I'm going to try this now. So Was it scary? Did your friends think you were weird for doing that? Or what was that like?
That's an interesting question. Yeah, I don't think it was scary for me. It was, like I said, I was very fortunate. I kind of lucked into the first opportunity of a house to buy, and I certainly didn't have much money. And so I kind of took everything I had, put it as a down payment. You could get a house at that point for very low down payment. Um, and then so it was highly leveraged. But I found out that I really enjoyed the home ownership and the having at that point they were my friends, but having renters as well. So it didn't take me long really to try for number two and then number three at that point as well. But I had to get a little bit creative with the financing in order to make that all possible. Because like I said, I think I was 23 when I first jumped into that game. But it was funny kind of talking to my mentor there. He and I have actually partnered up. We own some houses together still now. But talking to him years later, I said, how many people did you tell, hey, you should read this book, and hey, you should think about buying some rental properties because it can be good for you? He said, oh, I told a ton of people, everyone I knew back then. And I said, well, that's awesome because it'd been great for me, and I'm really glad you told me. He said, how many people do you think took you up on that? And he said, I think maybe you might be the only one. Which to me, I was like, well, that's weird because you had an awesome idea. Why did no one take you up on it? I think it was just for me, it was a little bit kind of wanting to think like an entrepreneur and kind of be a little bit more in charge of my own destiny instead of only an employee, of somebody else's. I am still a W-2 employee and I've got a great job, which I enjoy. But I've always kind of enjoyed this kind of side hustle as well. And admittedly, it's not for everybody. There's definitely stresses that come with it, but
Hmm.
yeah, I think part of it is just the mindset of wanting wanting something different and wanting to be a little bit in charge of what that trajectory is going to look like for myself.
Yeah. Well, I think it's awesome. I think I better also say something right here that when I go to onward-equity.com, there is an opportunity to download an ebook right there right away for free. So, what when did that book become available?
I wrote that 2 or 3 years ago now, and I really did it in mind because well, my focus now is you mentioned kind of in the intro, I focus on real estate syndications, which is just a fancy word of saying um, with partners now go out and buy, focus on larger, uh, scaling up larger multifamily, so apartment buildings. And we do that with the help of third party or outside investors, that are friends or family or acquaintances. And I wrote that ebook. It's titled like Top 10 Reasons to be a Passive Real Estate Investor, something like that. Anyways, passive syndication investor. And I
Right.
wrote it with the idea of wanting to just educate people because I think most people, myself included, until 7 or 8 years ago, don't know that you can invest in real estate without like buying a full house yourself or a full apartment building yourself. Most people know, of course, about their 401k and their IRA as opportunities for investments, and that's about as far as they want to go because that's kind of how the system is designed. Like that's what everyone knows about. That's where kind of the big money is, in the advertising. But most people don't know that you can buy essentially a share of or just a small portion of an apartment building or an office building or anything on the commercial side. So that book was written to try to educate people about, hey, what does this look like? Why can it be good for me? And what what options do I have besides just the standard 401k IRA option? So
Yeah.
I try to
So
give.
how I don't know about that actually at all. I'm that person. I know that you can buy a multifamily home as an investment. I know in my mind it feels like okay, like kind of like you said, I have a handle on what it means to live and own in a house. I have some kind of basic idea about like what the maintenance is like. And I think one of my questions that I asked you last time that we talked was something along those lines of, um, okay, that's what I think of when I think of buying a house for investment, right? So even a single family dwelling that is purchased for the purpose of renting it out as an investment, that's where my basic math goes, right? Okay, what are
Sure.
the expenses how much do I need to have in case something happens to keep up the home if there's a physical emergency or you need to replace something that's unforeseen. So these are cash flow questions. So the leap from doing and having an investment in a single family home to an apartment building, I don't know if I would even touch that. And yet this idea that buying a share in that sounds fascinating. And do I have to have like special qualifications or a financial particular profile that makes me eligible to buy a share in an apartment building? And how would I even start looking into that?
Sure. So awesome questions. I like kind of that progression of thought there. So most people, myself included, certainly, when you think of being a landlord, say for the single family home, you think, all right, just what you said. When the AC unit goes out, I've got to replace that. When the tenants move out and they trash the place, I need to worry about fixing it up. When a garbage disposal goes bad, I got to call a maintenance guy to get over there, or I got to go over there myself and fix it. So I think one of the chapters or the sections of the ebook is tenants and toilets and trash. They're not your problem anymore. Because when people think about being a landlord, there's so much that goes into it that, the IRS, or from an investment standpoint, it's considered a passive investment, but there's really not much passive about it. It's a lot of work, to be honest, and it can
Yeah.
be fun, but it can also be the most stressful times of my of my existence. So the idea with a real estate syndication, in essence, buying kind of a share of a larger commercial property, is that you're literally only an investor. You don't have to worry about anything else. You have no legal liability. You have no time constraints or commitments. You don't have to worry about replacing the tenants or fixing toilets or anything that goes wrong. Essentially, we act as, it's called the general partners. So we're the say, let's just say the team. We're the team that does all the work. We go out and find it. We go out and get the lending lined up for the loan. We hire a professional property management company to be on site and kind of take care of the day to day. And then we kind of manage the manager to make sure that the business plan is getting worked. But our investors who come in, they don't have to do any of that. They get quarterly updates from us in terms of, hey, here's how the property is going. Here's how we're working to kind of turn it around, to fix it up, to make it nicer for ourselves and of course for the tenants who live there. And then their liability is only the dollar amount that someone's investing. There's nothing else that from a day-to-day or liability standpoint they have to worry about. So it's really it's a very hands-off kind of way to invest in real estate. And when I didn't discover that until I think it was 2016. When I discovered that, I said I ended up taking fairly significant kind of portion of funds that I used to allocate to go out and buy a home for myself or something, that I would then not officially, but that I would directly own and manage and do all the work for. And I said, no, I'm going to reallocate that over here, to where you mean I can just essentially hire someone else to do all this work for me and still get almost the same, very similar financial returns on my dollars. That sounds like the secret to life in one way. So that reduced a lot of my stress when I started essentially outsourcing my real estate investments. And I did that for 5 years, 6 years, something like that. And then I decided, I would also like to be on the general partnership side, which you can mention, that's the team. That's us that kind of now does all the work to help make it possible for those limited partner or the passive investors. So kind of come full circle again for myself.
Wow, I think that's you move really quickly, actually. So you're talking about like a handful of years between like one step and the next. And yeah, I have a podcast friend, Angela Duncan, who's interested in real estate, and one of the things that she said was, yeah, when she first got into real estate, she was thinking, like you were saying, passive income, and then she's getting calls for the toilet's broken on Christmas. And
Yeah.
she's like, that's not what I want to be doing.
That's what a lot of
So
people find out. And we said it can be the most stressful part of my life dealing with that. It can also be fantastic. But I sympathize with your friend.
Visit dearbusinesskoachpodcast.com/subscribe for emails with episodes and events.
right. Right. So now, and then kind of like you, where something happened for you, your ears perked up, and so did mine when I was listening to you talk. You said to yourself, wait a minute, you mean that I can invest my dollars and get the same returns? And that was going to be my next question. Well, my next question was going to be, so what about the fees, right? This sounds fantastic to be able to invest in real estate. And I'm going to get you to emphasize with me too, why real estate in particular, right? If it is exciting and rewarding, but this does sound like a lot of work in terms of like educating myself and things like that. So, which comes along with everything. I love learning about new stuff, but just in terms of what's the easiest, fastest way to passive income, right? This sounds like you want to have a passion for it to be interested to learn in it. However, I feel like I can pick up some tips from you and start learning about, what are those opportunities for me to take that step into coming to someone who is a partner like yourself. I was going to ask you, but what about the fees, right? What about the costs associated with that? That can't be real that I get the same returns and then I'm not paying extra for the management part of it.
It's a great question, and I get that quite often. So I guess the answer is that yes, the general partnership team does take a small fee, usually up front. It's called an acquisition fee, and that kind of compensates for it. It's literally 100, if not hundreds, plural, of hours that are spent on um, any kind of any given opportunity before it even like closes and we officially own it. There's just a ton of work that goes into it. And the reality also is that, we may go through that dozens, hundreds of hours a dozen times before we get something that actually, closes, that we actually end up owning. So there's a lot of work. So that acquisition fee is usually paid up front, but it's all figured into the numbers. So, and those are made very clear during to potential investors. We generally will have a webinar to just kind of share it with the world, or at least to share it with our contacts, those who have said they'd like to learn more about when opportunities arise. So we'll have a webinar, and we'll have a slide deck that we share with everyone, and it kind of lays out the fees, and it lays out projected returns and that kind of thing. And the projected returns are always net of any of the fees that are being charged. So there's fees that we pay to the professional property management company that's on site. Of course, no one wants to work for free, so they're doing a good job. They're probably working the hardest of all of us because they are dealing with the tenants and the toilets and the trash on a daily basis. But then, like I said, the projected returns are all net of all these fees. It's what we really feel like are going to be, what the investors will experience as a result of the investment. And I think I've said it a couple of times, but I want to emphasize it's all projected returns. It's very much that it's based off of a lot of research and a lot of experience and a lot of time spent trying to kind of dial these numbers in. So they're always numbers. I'm always a fan of kind of trying to under promise and overperform. I don't have the stomach and I don't have the temperament to want to look at my friend or coworker or certainly family member in the eye and say, hey, I told you we're going to make 80% a year on this, but hey, it's only like 3%, or we lost money. Like I can't handle that. So it's always we try to be as realistic as possible and as honest and transparent upfront as possible. But it is projected, right? It's real life, so nothing's guaranteed. But it's all based on experience and research to figure out what's probably most likely scenario to happen, and it comes with a lot of work as well. And then we send out the quarterly updates to investors to let them know kind of, hey, here's what's happening, here's the good, here's the challenges, and here's how we're trying to overcome the challenges.
Is that normal for someone in your position to share projected returns net after fees? Is that normal?
Um, Honestly, I'm not sure what other people do. That's how we do it. Because I always even when you're booking airfare, like I want to know what I'm paying after taxes and fees.
Yeah.
So it's I want to know what realistically, if I'm an investor, I want to know what I can like realistically expect. And again, it's not guaranteed, and we're all need to go in eyes wide open. But we've had a lot of fun, and we've had a lot of success as well. So it's
Yeah.
I think
Well,
it's
I'm
fantastic.
sorry to ask you a question from way out of left field, kind of like that, but
No, I think that's a great question. I think it's important that
I think
you
that's
know.
fascinating.
Yeah.
And being someone who wants to like show me the numbers, like let me see what it is. That's a very a very important thing to highlight. So, okay. Well, now okay, so I had mentioned before that we can get in touch with you at onward-equity.com. And there is a contact us button right there in the upper right-hand corner of the page. So is that the best thing to do if I want to start a conversation with you or get more information about like what would be the first steps if I wanted to invest with you?
Yeah, that's a great way to do it. The contact us, that will then just send me an email, and then I'll contact you back. But another great way that I always encourage people, if they have an interest in something like this, it's going to resonate with some people and it's not going to resonate with others, which is totally fine. But when you visit that website for the first time, there should be a pop-up window that then invites you to share your name and email address to receive a copy of the ebook that you mentioned. That's the top 10 reasons to be a passive investor in real estate syndication. And I would like to humbly say I think it's a really good and informative book, especially for those. It's kind of written for those who don't have an experience with that type of investment opportunity
Mhm.
previously. So to try to really open your eyes and to share what does this even mean and why could it be good for you. But also what that does, if someone puts their email address in there, I send out weekly emails that are geared towards uh, education, because I really feel like an educated investor is the best type of investor. And the only way to get educated is to start learning and take an interest in trying to gain knowledge, like we referenced as well. Um, there's a lot out there that needs to be learned. I think that anyone, before they're going to give a decent chunk of their hard-earned money away, uh, let me rephrase that. It's not giving away, before they're going to invest it.
Right.
I want everyone to have the best idea possible of what they're investing in, and so the weekly emails I send are geared towards. Some are just investing in general, like why investing is a good idea and what that even means, and some of it's specifically geared towards kind of the real estate syndications, and that is also the way that I send out information when there is a live opportunity. I'll send it out to my contact list there that says, "Hey, we've got a new opportunity. Here's where it is. Here's why we think it's great. Here's how we think it could benefit you." And then it's up to everyone to say, "That sounds good to me. Let's learn more and let's take advantage of it."
Yeah, no, that's when I can pop into your email and pick up something new and read something new for the day that gets my wheels going in the direction I'm hopefully moving in the right direction. It's good to be connected with folks like yourself. And you've already shared with us that you are actually day to day in that CPA world too. So I'm already like fascinated to find out, okay, what's he going to tell us today about what's going on in the world real time? Well, I want to make sure I save enough time. Oh my gosh, we're already close. So let's take a couple of minutes. Tell me about the Sun Foundation. You said in 2013, you and your wife founded the Sun Foundation as a nonprofit serving home away from home for cancer patients. This is in the Indianapolis area. Is that correct?
It is. Yeah, we live in Indianapolis, and the Sun Foundation. It's kind of a passion project, and it's a good example of kind of something good being born out of something not so great.
Mm-hmm.
So back in 2012, my wife was a fourth grade teacher, and she was job sharing, so kind of half day with her best friend. So my wife would work half a day, and then her best friend, her name's Tiffany, would come in and work the other half of the day in the same classroom. And at the age of 33, my wife's best friend Tiffany was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer and had to take time off to, of course, to go through treatments and to get better. And trying to figure out what then my wife was going to do next, whether she was going to go back the next school year and teach full time, or she was going to find someone else to kind of job share with. She was volunteering at a local, it's called Ronald McDonald House. I think it's around the country, but Ronald McDonald House is set up so that kids can stay there for free. Or I'm sorry, at least the parents can stay there for free when a child is as a patient going through treatment. And my wife was volunteering there and just kind of asked a somewhat innocent question, like, is there a need that you see that's going unmet? And they said, we feel bad, but we get adults calling here sometimes asking if they can stay here, adults who are the patients. And they say, we feel bad. We have to say no, because it's for only the kids. The kid has to be the patient or the child at the Ronald McDonald House. And they say, we don't have anywhere good to tell them to go. Like, there's plenty of hotels in town, right? But the hotels are expensive. Paying for parking is expensive. Going out for every single meal is expensive. And so I remember like it was yesterday, literally, but it was like 12 years ago. My wife and I were talking later that night, and she was just relaying that conversation, and kind of a light bulb went off, I think, in both of our minds at the same time. Hey, why don't we buy a house and let cancer patients stay here? Because we were dealing with, our best friend, her best friend, and great family friend going through the cancer struggle. So why don't we buy a house and let cancer patients stay there? And it'll be geared towards adults who are the patients. And that was definitely the light bulb moment. And we just surrounded ourselves with smart people ever since then to kind of help start this business, start the charity. And as you mentioned at the outset, we're 9,000 nights of lodging provided for free. We don't ask for anyone to pay there. We don't ask to pay to stay. We just survive by donations, and we've always done really well. And it's such a blessing to our family to be able to kind of give back to the cancer community in that way, because it's something that too many of us are affected by. I hate it. I hate cancer. But being able to just kind of be this little bit of a port in the storm for those going through a tough time is it's incredibly it's beneficial for us. And I know that it's been beneficial for a lot of people there as well, because it just kind of gives them something that feels like home, to come to stay at, and to commune with others who are going through the same scenario. So it's a 6-bedroom, 4-bath home downtown Indianapolis. So it's a little bit of a communal living, but a lot of people like that. It's just a way to interact with people going through the same struggles, and they can kind of lean on each other as well. So it's been a blessing.
Wow. Well, I can personally say that makes a whole lot of sense to me. I have a personal experience with being in a position where I need to be in a hotel room for an extended period of time because I'm there with somebody who's having cancer treatments. And so, and the only reason I was able to do that is because I asked a family member, my grandmother, who was able to help me stay in that hotel room because I needed to be there. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't have a really nice grandma who would help me do that. Yeah. Holy moly. Yeah, I did read this, and but that was in 2013. I did write down, you kind of answered the question. You just decided, because of it, I can certainly understand, your wife had her best friend went through cancer. And so you guys it was almost feels to me like you're saying it was a no-brainer. You saw the idea and you said, let's do this. Did you already have like a full house when you first made that house available?
So we bought the house and we really spent the better part of the first year fixing it up, to be honest. Like it needed some work, mainly just like TLC. It needed to be look a little bit nicer and kind of get it set up for the clientele that we knew were going to be staying there. We wanted it to be nice and to feel like home for people. And of course, when we started, we didn't have much of any money to do it. So we just kind of fixed it up as we got some donations, or as a person or a group would volunteer some labor to help, renovate this part of the house or to paint that part of the house, that kind of thing. So it took us about a year, and we first just kind of opened the first floor, so the first 2 bedrooms. We had never run a hospitality house before, is the honest truth. So we wanted to kind of ease into it, so we opened up a couple of the bedrooms, and then once we got a little bit of experience with that, then we opened up the rest of the house. And we've been, for better or for worse, that we've been very occupied ever since. Like, there's a need, and the better part is that we get to fill that need. I hate that there is a need, but we've worked with several hospitals here in Indianapolis, so that's the route by which we get our guests, is we work with the social workers at the hospital, and they refer their patients to us. So.
Wow. Wow. Well, at some point, I'm sure I will want to ask you again, maybe for some business model help, right? So if somebody else, like I'm far enough away that I could say, if I want to do this in my area, I wouldn't be copycatting you exactly, right?
Oh,
But
no,
like
I hope you do. I hope
do
everyone
something.
does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every major town, or probably some minor towns, could use something like this, because there's a need. Like, just like wherever you were when you need to stay in a hotel, it's expensive, and I don't care who you are. I don't care how rich you are. If you have to take time off and go through the most important thing, which is getting better, you gotta do it. And sometimes a spouse might have to quit a job or take unpaid time off in order to travel with their spouse. So it adds up. And just having the opportunity to have something that feels like home, and to where it's just one less stress. The goal is to have it to be one less stress in their life, of having a place to stay that is comfortable, and a place to cook meals if they want, or that kind of thing. I hope that there can be something like this in every town that has the need.
Yes. Huge, huge. Okay, well, I think I told you this was going to go by really fast, and I don't even know what time it is. So let me say again, to download your free ebook, get in touch with you, Scott Jacobson, and your team. That's onward-equity.com.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I'd love the opportunity I love talking about real estate, and I love talking about investing, and love the opportunity to share with anyone who might have an interest.
Yes, and live opportunities. So look out I'm in your email list. So look out for emails around live opportunities as well, you say.
Absolutely. Yep. That's how we share opportunities.
Awesome. Well, fantastic. Thank you so much for being here today, and we'll talk again really soon.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I loved it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining me today. My name's Elizabeth in Floyd, Virginia. This has been an episode of Dear Business Coach.